I'm Will Pineau. I'm the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'll serve as the Master of Ceremonies. I'm honored to welcome and introduce the dignitaries who have accepted our invitation for today's luncheon. We'll begin with the Honorable Franz Manderson, Deputy Governor and Head of the Civil Service, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism and Ports, Social Development and Innovation, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Minister of Border Control, Labor and Culture, Sustainability and Climate Resiliency and Wellness, the Honorable Mikiva Bush, Parliamentary Secretary for Social Development, Innovation, Border Control, Culture, Planning, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development, the Honorable Joseph Hew, Leader of the Opposition, Members of Parliament, Heather Bodden, Sabrina Turner, Andre Ebanks, Wayne Panton, and Roy McTaggart, Kurt Walton, the Police Commissioner, Chief Officers, Head of Departments, Statutory Authorities and Government Companies, and Member of Boards, Councils, and Committees, Chamber President Joanne Lawson, Chamber Executive and Council members, Chamber past presidents, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Put your hands together, it's a long list. So as I said, thank you for attending, and I'd like to begin today's proceedings with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we praise you for bringing us together in fellowship as we share this meal and time. We invite your presence among us today as we discuss issues that are of national importance to our beloved Cayman Islands. Inspire us to effectively use this time so that Chamber members and government leaders can work in partnership to build a community rooted in love, respect, and compassion for all. Bless our physical and spiritual appetites to honor you in all we do. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I'd now like to turn to our presentation for the Chamber of Commerce, and I'll introduce our President, Joanne Lawson. Joanne Lawson is the Chief of Staff at DART and the current President of our Chamber of Commerce. She's a dynamic leader dedicated to fostering growth and opportunity for Caymanians. Under her leadership, the Chamber Council launched a transformative 3-year advocacy plan to strengthen local workforce development and address key economic challenges. Joanne's commitment to creating pathways for Caymanians in various industries reflects her passion for community advancement and sustainable development. With a strategic vision and a proactive approach, Joanne continues to impact the Cayman Islands business landscape, championing initiatives supporting employers and employees. Please welcome President Joanne.
Imagine a slingshot. As you draw it back, feeling the tension build, you pause, you focus, and carefully, thoughtfully aim, poised to release with powerful momentum. This is where we find ourselves today, gathering strength, aligning our vision, and preparing for a powerful launch. This release is like our journey to 2035. It's a path where we are not just reacting to change, but leading it. Channeling our collective energy to shape meaningful change, rather than seeing forces that may pull us back as challenges or setbacks, we recognize them as opportunities, increasing our potential to move forward with an even greater purpose. Today, the Chamber Council are aligned with a vision for Cayman's future. While the leadership that will guide us from 2027 to 2035 is yet to be determined, I am confident that the momentum we create now will inspire future leaders to move us closer to that vision. It's an honor to speak with you all today as we gather here to ensure that Cayman remains one of the best places to live and work, not just for today, but for future generations. For nearly 60 years, the Chamber of Commerce has proudly supported Cayman business community, representing over 600 companies across diverse industries. This luncheon highlights our unique role in our community. We have the invaluable opportunity of a direct line of communication with Parliament, allowing us to advocate for business interests and broader well-being of our community. In September, we launched our 2024 to 2027 Advocacy and Action Plan, a practical, ambitious plan consisting of 3 interconnected pillars: building a future-ready workforce, sustaining economic success, and advancing quality of life. Created through extensive collaboration with members and stakeholders, this agenda reflects our shared commitment to building a thriving Cayman for all. To build a future-ready workforce that meets today's demands while preparing for tomorrow's opportunities, we support developing a national human capital plan that clearly understands workforce needs and aligns our people to them. This approach will allow us to equip our children with the skills they need to succeed and ensure that scholarship opportunities reflect industry demands. To drive this evolution, we support prioritizing workforce development through strategic partnerships that create pathways for apprenticeships, opening doors to new opportunities and hands-on experience. By investing in talent development today, we can build a resilient workforce capable of sustaining and strengthening Cayman's economy for generations. We are proud of the progress we've made, including our partnership with Inspire Cayman, which connects job seekers to valuable hands-on experience. We also continue facilitating programs like Mentoring Cayman, Leadership Cayman, and now Junior Achievement, providing young Caymanians with crucial exposure to potential career paths and opportunities to develop leadership skills. To maximize these opportunities for Caymanians, we need your support, and we look forward to collaborating with you to ensure the long-term success of these partnerships. Sustaining economic success is our second pillar, which underscores the importance of having a clear and forward-thinking vision for long-term prosperity. To ensure our economy's resilience, it must be able to adapt to global shifts and meet the evolving needs of our people. We will focus on being a proactive advocate and trusted partner for our membership, championing policies, regulations, and initiatives supporting Cayman businesses' growth, sustainability, and competitiveness. To achieve this, we will seek representation on various government and statutory authority boards, advocating for decisions that align with the needs of our business community and drive Cayman's continued success. We are introducing a Government Accountability Scorecard, GAS, designed to help the Chamber monitor and track the government's progress on its strategic priorities. This scorecard will promote transparency, effectiveness, and accountability in governance. We aim to launch the GAS following the release of the new government's strategic policy statement in 2025. This initiative reflects our commitment to fostering a transparent and effective partnership with the government to benefit our community and the future. The third pillar we've identified as essential is advancing quality of life, underscoring the Chamber's commitment to improving the well-being of all residents in the Cayman Islands. Our strategies focus on 3 key areas: financial wellness, healthy living, and safety. Our initial focus will involve advocating for a review of duty rates and pushing for concessions that support vulnerable populations while offsetting these with higher tariffs on luxury items. Additionally, we will continue to seek a solution for beach erosion, particularly to safeguard the economic value of 7 Mile Beach. Assuming our population continues to grow at an annual rate of 2 to 3%, we could see an increase of up to 15% in the next 5 years. This projected growth is essential to address our national infrastructure needs, particularly the increasing concerns around traffic congestion. And considering the cancellation of the Regen project, we need a clear and sustainable plan for managing our waste. current landfill remains unsightly and unsanitary and rapidly approaching capacity. Our Chamber Council members have been organized into small teams that actively work to advance each pillar. Our members' continued engagement drives this work forward. As we look ahead to the upcoming elections, we are reminded of the critical role that government stability plays in ensuring the ongoing success of our economy. Over the past 2 years, we have witnessed more changes in the cabinet than Cayman is accustomed to. While we acknowledge that the government has been able to adapt and continue its functions following each change quickly, we believe that this level of instability is not in the country's or its economy's best interest. We are pleased that the election date has been set for the 30th of April 2025. This timing allows for new eligible voters who plan to register by the end of the year the opportunity to participate in the election process. We encourage all eligible voters to register before the end of 2024 to ensure they can participate in the upcoming election. As we approach a critical juncture in our political landscape, we urge all political parties, groups, and candidates to clearly outline their proposed actions and solutions for addressing our community's pressing issues. The choices made in the coming months will shape the future of our islands, making it essential for voters to be fully informed about each candidate's vision. A stable government with a clear, unified direction provides a foundation for our economy to grow, adapt, and evolve to meet tomorrow's challenges. For the Chamber, whether the government is a single party or a coalition matters less than having a leadership team with a cohesive, inspiring vision for the country. One that sets out a well-defined agenda that establishes a comprehensive set of policy priorities that the business community can depend on for the next 4 years. When government stability, consistent leadership, and strong partnership between government and business exists, our business environment can thrive, creating opportunities for collective success and fostering economic growth and human development. As we have done in previous election cycles, the Chamber will again host nonpartisan candidate forums for each of the 19 constituencies. These forums allow candidates to present their positions on critical issues and for community members to engage directly with those seeking to represent them. They provide a platform for constructive dialogue, allowing the public to ask questions and hear directly from the candidates. This opportunity for transparency and engagement will ultimately strengthen our democracy and community. Thank you all for coming today, and it was nice to see so many friendly faces as I was greeting them at the door. I know that we all share the same desire for good governance and a resilient Cayman. And this might feel like a target that is constantly moving and evolving, but the members of the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce are close to the action, both locally and internationally. We have a unique perspective, and our collective energy is focused on taking action and building momentum on initiatives that will further a future-ready workforce, sustainable economic success, and a better quality of life in the Cayman Islands. As we prepare for the future, we are drawing back with purpose, aligning our vision, and incrementally making progress. Thank you. I would now like to invite up our keynote speaker, Honorable Deputy Premier and Minister of Tourism and Ports and Social Development and Innovation, Honorable Kenneth Bryan.
With protocol having been duly established, I would like to recognize my colleagues here in the room, those in the opposition, the members of the Chamber of Commerce, business leaders, and distinguished guests. Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you here today. First, I want to start by saying, Madam President, wonderful speech. I want to say how pleased I am to join you here on behalf of the government. And I'd like to use our time together today to have some honest conversations with you about the realities that we're facing, the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead, and the government's steadfast commitment to continue working with you for the betterment of our nation. But before doing so, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a truly essential group, and that is the members of the Chamber of Commerce. If the members can please just stand for 1 second. All of you, I saw you with your pins today. The council members, sorry. Keep standing for a second. As a part of this organization, each of you play a vital role in the discussions, the issues, the recommendations, and the solutions which shape our economy. A strong, thriving economy is not just the lifeblood, it is the cornerstone of Cayman society, and that supports our business, commerce, and the impacts on the quality of our everyday life. And it's because of people like you that we have such a strong economy. And again, the government thanks you. Without a thriving economy, our standards of living would not be what it is today. So while I understand that the protocol is to acknowledge the Premier, the Deputy Premier, His Excellency, the Acting Governor, and distinguished guest, I honestly believe the true honor is to you and your council and your membership. So please, thank you again on behalf of the government. Now, with that being said, let's get down to business. In this time of what might be seen as political turmoil and economic uncertainty, with our cost of living being impacted by geopolitical forces beyond our borders and affecting what is happening here in our shores, and at a time where it seems like there's no agreement within our society on issues ranging from population growth to cruise pairs, we certainly have a lot to talk about. And if anyone knows me well, you know that I'm a straight shooter, and I don't shy away from the truth. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Firstly, I know that the recent loss of 4 members of our government raised questions about stability and continuity, and I want to address that concern straight on. The government remains stable, and there's no cause for alarm. In fact, this is not unprecedented. Some of you may recall that during the 2013 to 17 administration, 3 members of the government bench crossed the floor for various reasons. So when things like that happen, it's not the end of the world. The remaining members of the government have already taken on the additional responsibilities and ministries and departments, ensuring the continuity of leadership and governance, and we are on track to serve until the next general election in April of next year. And I'd like to underscore that point about the continuity by highlighting that the government is supported by incredibly capable and experienced civil servants that work tirelessly every day to maintain the momentum of our projects and our programs. Their efforts allow the government's initiatives to keep moving forward, undeterred and focused on one shared vision for our country. Now that that is out of the way, let's talk about the state of our economy and our society, because truly that's why we're here. Starting first with the country's finances, the top line takeaway is that we are stable and we are in a good place. For the first 9 months of this year, the government made $27 million more than projected, and the projections were $887 million to date. We still got 2 more months to go, actually 3 more months, because that was up until September, so there's a lot more money to make, but we're $27 million ahead. In respect to expenses, we spent $11 million less than expected up until September, which was $787 million. Core government has an operating surplus of $135.7 million, which is $38 million more than projected. And as of the 30th of September of this year, core government is in full compliance with the principles of responsible financial management, with cash reserves of 142.2 days. So again, I say that the government is stable, and we are in a good place. On the international stage, following the re-election of Donald Trump, one clear impact has been the surge in economic confidence in the United States, from which the Cayman Islands are likely to benefit. The election announcement was swiftly followed by a quarter-point reduction in the federal interest rates, and the economists are forecasting a positive ripple effect, which could lead to the reduction of fuel prices and more opportunities in trade, investment, and lending that could be advantageous to our economy. I hope that many of you will also be seeing the benefits in your businesses and your bottom lines, and I trust that you will pass on some of those savings to our consumers locally. While the economic outlook is stable, and the truth is, we're at the crossroads right now. Partly because public opinion is being swayed by questions about what we are, who we are, where we're going, and where we stand as a country on issues ranging from immigration and population growth, to economic growth and development, to road infrastructure, and to the environment. Over the past few years, we've seen unprecedented growth in our country. In 2012, the resident population was 56,732 people. By 2022, that figure increased to 81,546, an increase of close to 44% just in one decade. By 2023, the population had increased even further to 84,738, as confirmed by the ESO Labor Force Survey. On one hand, this staggering population increase means more jobs, more businesses, more homes, and more people arriving to contribute to our success and benefit from our strong economy. But on the other hand, all of this growth comes with some cost. And trust me, I'm not going to gloss over the consequences. I'm going to confront them because, as I said before, we came here to talk about the truth. Our infrastructure is stretched. We're spending more time in traffic, even as new roads and lanes are being added. Class sizes in schools are expanding, impacting the quality of education our children receive. Healthcare wait times have increased from weeks to months, straining our systems and putting pressure on all who rely on these essential services. In short, the consequences of unmanaged growth are becoming more and more visible in our everyday lives. And so what I've recognized is that we have a challenge before us, one that will take not only political certainty, direction, and policy, but agreement across all sectors, from social, community, nonprofit, businesses, church groups, local associations, overseas offices, everyone that has a vested interest in our beloved Cayman Islands. And we have to agree on a way forward. So my hope and my intention here today is, rather than going through specific plans of each government agency, and I will be doing some of that, I want to focus more intently on what we need to be moving forward to, recognizing that there's an election around the corner, as you heard our Madam President suggest. And the next administration, whoever it may be, will also need to focus on these things by drawing people together on one common path forward. So when that slingshot you heard Madam President talk about is aimed and fired, we hit the target. One of the most important priorities we first have to address concerns our environment. Because what we are comfortable with doing or not comfortable doing has to be aligned. From an environmental perspective, and direct or indirect impacts have been felt on our lives, on things like the East-West Arterial, beach replenishment, a cruise pier, and the National Development Plan, just to name a few. And Cayman is becoming caught between a rock and a hard place regarding the protection of our environment. Information on what is right and what is best for our ever-evolving in society. And now the new buzzword is sustainability. And it's being used, unfortunately, in many forms and forums misleadingly, due to the lack of understanding of how sustainable economies actually work. The word sustainability, by its definition, is a word that speaks about life in the context of society, the economy, and of course, our environment. In my view, I think it is also being used to reinforce a perspective that is sometimes unreasonable and unrealistic when it comes to protecting and preserving our environment. You may have heard me say during my recent debate in Parliament, refer to the, quote, reasonable sacrifice, which speaks to the necessary balance that must be enshrined in our approach when tackling important national issues like the 7 Mile Beach Renourishment Plan. From economic development and growth to protectionism to population growth, and how we go about getting to wherever it is we want to go as Caymanians and as a country. As a business community, as a government, and as a people, the number one priority is that we have to accomplish the identity and the agreed approach in order to move forward. Otherwise, we're going to be at a standstill. Let's take the government's intention to address the National Conservation Act as an example. I know that for some of you, this is a very sensitive issue, and rightfully so. Anything to do with the protection of Earth and its surroundings and the natural environment is always going to be sensitive, and any type of rebalancing is likely going to be controversial. But one thing I think that we have to agree on as stakeholders in our economy is that the approach that we have been taking, particularly over the last 3.5 years, is one that is woefully imbalanced. One that doesn't work seamlessly with the plans and expectations of our people. And one that is ultimately, if left unchecked, will not create the kinds of economic opportunities, employment, neighborhoods and communities, and all the other benefits that are in the best interest of our country. So, how do we go about rebalancing? First, we have to be willing to have the hard conversations. We have to examine what is the current weight of things. One way or the other, we can't shy away from the facts. Is it imbalanced towards too much growth and straining our infrastructure? Or is it imbalanced towards too much protectionism, putting hurdles in the way of organic growth within our economy upon which your businesses lie? This government intends to have those hard conversations. As hard as they may be, we do need to talk about it. I mean, let's be honest, it is a sad indictment for our history books to show that a government department is suing another one. And when you think about the time, the cost, and the scope of such things, it's ludicrous. And honestly, I'm embarrassed. Changes in legislation will ensure that history will not repeat itself in that respect. And this administration hopes that we can resolve these types of issues more amicably, so that the courts become an unnecessary option in the future if there is a dispute. Rather, the goal is to get all stakeholders, including the public, legislators, and the business community, to look at the ramifications and real-life examples on how the imbalance is affecting our growth, which affects our economy, which affect our people, which affect our jobs, which affect whether there's food on the table for our children and for our families. Can I say here today that I have the answers to that specific equation? I can't promise you that I do. But what I can say with certainty is there is a need for rebalance. Many times, growth is accused of being to the detriment of this country. And to be totally honest with you, I myself thought so at one time, until I had a deeper understanding of actually how our economy works. Can we do better? Of course we can. Will we do better? Yes, we will, with partnerships like the Chamber of Commerce. Because growth and the success of our economy isn't the problem. The problem is that we haven't planned for it. And everyone has their own agenda for their own success, which is a natural human characteristic, self-preservation and self-success. And if we allow this natural instinct to take hold unchecked, it would lead to greater disparity between the haves and the have-nots. So we have to come together as the various stakeholders with one common path of success, whether to make sure that everybody wins. The working class, the middle class, the merchant class, and of course, the environment. What this comes down to is the need for the understanding and the acceptance that growth isn't bad. What is bad is unplanned growth, unmanaged development, unmanaged population growth. That is the problem. But with proper planning, we can continue to be successful, we can continue to make more money, we can continue to offer Caymanians the Caymanian dream that our forefathers built for us. I think we'd all agree that our population growth has not been managed effectively, and unmanaged growth can be a double-edged sword. Our task now is to sharpen the edges of the opportunities before us while softening the impacts on our quality of life. We're now at a point where it is critical that we work together to address the stresses and the strains that we are facing, not just in a piecemeal fashion, but through comprehensive, strategic approaches coupled with decisive actions, like you heard Madam President suggest. We have to do some restructuring, whether that means slowing down of the immigration grants or speeding up the housing development plans because we can see that the growth of the population has caused major concerns in the cost of housing in the rental market, as well as the availability for housing for persons who would like to purchase some. Taking the Caymanian dream out of the reach of most people, and in some instances, even causing some people to become homeless. I know we've all read the headlines. And these are just some of the symptoms of unplanned growth that needs to be addressed. We also have to do a better job of ensuring that the trickle-down economic model works the way it was supposed to. There's nothing wrong with the government giving incentives, but the intention of an incentive is to make sure that those benefits are passed on to the members of our society, particularly our people. We have to do a much better job of making sure that that happens moving forward. Knowing Caymanians the way I do, we are a very welcoming people. We are very open-minded people. But sadly, we're starting to see that temperament and that attitude of our people change. They're not accepting and not as welcoming as they used to be because they see the imbalance and that they're not succeeding and they're feeling like they're being taken advantage of. Oftentimes, they feel like their kindness is being taken for weakness. Over time, if this continues unchecked, it will alter the dynamic of what being Caymanian is. And I'm not sure we'll be able to use the word Cayman kindness for very much longer if we don't take action to address this problem now. The fact is, it's not that Caymanians don't understand how the economy works or is against the growth. It's simply that they see that the growth is not working in their favor, and they don't feel the benefits of this success. Because the Caymanian people, in majority, if they were reaping the benefits and not being stuck in traffic and not being prevented from owning a home because of the cost, and were able to live the Caymanian dream that so many others have come here and be able to do, they wouldn't have so many questions about why another hotel, why all of this growth, and who are we developing for, if they felt that they were benefiting from the growth and the success of our strong economy. The truth is, as policymakers, as well as industry players, we have failed to ensure that that happens. So what needs to happen now is rebalancing those priorities to be more in favor of the common folk, our people. Because believe it or not, there are more Caymanians who are in support of positive growth and of success and of reasonable balance, more than you actually believe. It's just that they are being crowded out by a louder voice who are trying to mislead them from the truth of how the Caymanian economy was built and how our economy works. And like Sir Alden McLaughlin would say, the day that you stop growing is the day that you die. But I could counteract that by saying if you grow too fast, there's going to be some serious growing pains. And that's why we're here today. So let's start addressing some of those problems. Let us begin to move forward with a better balance in our population growth, a better balance with respect to housing growth, strategic development, and road infrastructure. Let us also plan for proper HR-related needs, like you heard Madam President say, resulting from the growth. Because Caymanians are not making babies fast enough to offset the population growth that we're seeing. And if that means that the economy is moving faster than the population of Caymanians is able to grow, we have to accept that it translates to the dependence on outside labor. But in saying that, What impacts will that continue to have on our society? Where are these workers? Who are these workers that we want? How do we ensure that that they understand and respect our cultural identity and our standards of living and the way of life? Where are they going to live? Where are their children going to go to school? Because all of these things add more costs to the infrastructure of our beautiful three islands. Now, I don't want you to leave this room thinking that growth is bad. Definitely that's not what I want. But before we allow more imported labor to meet the workforce needs, we have to understand what the plan is to address these types of issues before they become worse. All of these things have to be ironed out and thought about, because if we leave it unbalanced the way it is, the future will not look bright at all. Not bright for your businesses, not bright for the hotels, not bright for your shops, not bright for the supermarkets and the restaurants, and many services that you offer our strong economy. And I say this because, like everywhere in the world, when there is a widening disparity between the haves and the have-nots, social disharmony increases and brings with it a rise in unhealthy practices, drug use and alcohol abuse, mental health disorders, domestic abuse, and a whole host of other issues that arise because people are stressed, they're frustrated, and they feel like they can't keep up. We're seeing signs of this already, with people having to work harder to try to make ends meet, and ended up spending less time with their children and their families, leaving room for unsupervised youngsters to get in trouble. We've all heard of cases of that mother that could not provide for her family and ends up stealing from her workplace or from the supermarket, and it was something that was definitely not in her character. You go, I would never think she would do such a thing. Or the father that feels stressed because he cannot provide for his family, and he tries to drown his sorrows in legal or illegal substances just to get him through the week. Or the parents working 2 or 3 jobs to keep a roof over their family's head, who don't have time to help their kids with their homework or to focus on their education. And then the children start acting up in school, their grades go down, and they end up leaving school disillusioned and vexed with the world. Now, don't get me wrong, just because that things are hard, it doesn't give people the right or the permission to break the law or to make bad choices. But the difficulties and their realities cause people to do uncharacteristic things. And ultimately, the pressure and the consequences of this imbalance that we're facing today can lead to more serious crimes, which I would not want to talk about today. Now, I know that this all sounds scary. It sounds scary because it is scary. And it's not something we ideally want to talk about over lunch. But there's good news. We are not at the point of no return. And there is time to fix these issues and turn them around. My job is to give you the enlightenment that it is here, it's sneaking up on us. In all that I've said, I don't want to create the impression that growth is bad. On the contrary, growth is very positive, as long as it's planned for and managed in ways to ensure that everyone can enjoy their fair share of the Cayman's economic success. After all, too much success is better than having a weak economy that cannot provide for its people at all. Look at Haiti. So now that I've set the stage for what I believe needs to be restructured and rebalanced, I'll turn my attention now to the projects and the plans that the government is undertaking to address some of these issues. And because our time is limited, I thought I would focus on a few key areas that the Chamber membership and the business community would most likely want to hear about. And to kick it off, I want to take a moment to unveil a brand new initiative that I'm super excited about. It's called Tourism Matters, and it's a part of an animated video series spearheaded by the amazing Chamber of Commerce. This third video series was produced in partnership with the Department of Tourism and explains how tourism contributes directly and indirectly to our economy. The video is designed to be engaging and informative for everyone from students to seniors, and I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the first public showing of Tourism Matters.
In Season 1 of Growth Matters, we learned that tourism and financial services are the two pillars of the Cayman Islands economy. These pillars bring money from other countries, which drives financial growth and prosperity. Season 2 explained how financial services matters to the Cayman Islands. Now we'll learn how tourism matters to our economic success. When people visit the Cayman Islands with money earned in their countries, they spend it at local businesses, leading to economic growth. For whatever reason visitors arrive, they're spending money they earned elsewhere. Virtually every visitor spends money, which drives economic growth. But tourism also provides jobs to residents. These jobs are not only at hotels, restaurants, or tourist attractions, but in many other businesses. Hotels and restaurants provide food and drink, and amenities like swimming pools and water sports. The more tourists we attract, the greater the demand hotels have for goods and services to ensure guests have an enjoyable experience and return. Local businesses providing these goods and services need staff. So, someone working at a supply distribution company might not interact with tourists directly, but their job is indirectly impacted by tourism, because the distribution company sells goods to the hotels. Hotels also need landscapers, swimming pool maintenance companies, appliance repair technicians, pest control specialists, and a variety of other services. By providing those services, local businesses earn revenue to pay staff and make a profit for their owners. Staff at these tourism-supported businesses live in the Cayman Islands, where they shop for groceries, clothing, and other goods. They go to hair salons, doctors, dentists, and other local service providers that hire their own staff. Simply put, the more tourists that visit and spend money, the more Cayman's economy grows and jobs are created. With a small but growing manufacturing base to export goods, Cayman relies on tourism for growth and development. This makes tourism a vital pillar for our economy. Thanks for watching. Share this video so everyone can learn why tourism matters.
What do you think? Was it good? I want you to join me by giving Will Panu from the Chamber of Commerce and the Department of Tourism and all those who were involved a big, strong round of applause for that wonderful video. It is really so important to educate the public about the importance of tourism. It's the role as the second pillar of our economy, and I think it's the most secure one. Even the other one is a lot stronger than mine. It is what it is. I get the second best. I'm cool with that. As you saw in the video, it all starts with visitors coming to our shores, and I'm happy to report that we are in a strong position, with stayover arrivals continuing to flow in an upward trajectory. For the period of January to September, air arrivals stood at 330,514 visitors. And for the first 9 months of this year, we're up by 2.3% compared to the same period of last year. With that said, air arrivals in July, August, and September were slightly down due to the airport closures, cancellations, and business interruptions, due to the tropical storms, Hurricane Beryl and Raphael. And without all of that weather nonsense, I'm quite sure we could have been closer to the 2019 numbers. I was quite upset. I was like, ooh, I can't get in the house and say, look how good I'm doing. But it is what it is. We don't question the Lord. But I am happy to say that the latest report on the weather from the weather officials and hazard management as of this morning from the storm that is southwest of us will have no major impact other than some rain. So that's some good news, right? Things are expected to pick up again in November and December, aligning with the high season and the peak period for the holiday travel. It's anticipated that the total visitor by the end of the year of this year is projected to be 439,660 stayover arrivals, which is 2% increase over the 429,284 visitors recorded last year. With respect to revenue earned from tourism accommodation taxes, we're expected to collect $44.1 million by the end of the year, which is a $3.9 million more than budgeted. And this is another indicator that our tourism industry is doing well. Turning now to the cruise sector, which is not as positive, I think by now most people know that the cruise numbers are down. The current projections are that we will end the year with 1.1 million passengers, which is 100,000 passengers less than last year. This downward trend is expected to continue. And besides a bump in next year's numbers to 1.3, we are expected to have an annual decline of around 5.2% year on year moving forward. With respect to revenue from cruise passenger departure charges, or head tax, as is commonly known by most persons, the government is forecasted to collect $7.1 million by the end of the year, which is a $1 million less than we projected at $8.1 million. Due to the ongoing decline in passenger arrivals, and given the economic and social importance of the cruise sector to our tourism industry, this government has taken a supportive stance on the development of a cruise berthing facility. You may recall last month I brought a motion to Parliament on this issue, which was unanimously accepted by all members of the government, as well as those in the opposite. At the next sitting of Parliament, I intend to bring a referendum act to be debated, which will formalize the process from a legal standpoint and pave the way for a comprehensive public education campaign. And many of you who may be wondering why we haven't started that, we can't start it until we're sure it's going to happen. Speaking of which, however, the government will depend on the support of the opposition to receive safe passage through Parliament and proceed to having a referendum at the next election. But if we don't get the support from those on the opposite side, there will be no referendum. For those who want one, I don't think I need to tell you what to do. Do the lobbying like everybody else. Some of them are here in the room. My final update on tourism concerns upgrades and enhancements to our airport infrastructure. I am pleased to report that the construction of a new general aviation terminal and the expansion of the runway at the Owen Roberts International Airport are both well underway. The new general aviation facility will be completed in phases, and the Cayman Islands Airports Authority is currently in the process of completing the first phase of design, which will be the procurement process to be outsourced for a contractor to be expected to begin in December of this year, so next month. The timeline for completion of the general aviation aircraft parking apron is in phase 1 at the end of 2025. The runway extension will increase the existing runway by 1,115 feet, enhancing our ability to service long-haul flights and making the Cayman Islands accessible to direct routes from new markets. I am excited by what these enhancements will mean for our tourism destination and financial services in terms of growing our different industries and strengthening our competitiveness globally. Friends, there's so much more that I can talk about in respect to my ministry, but in the interest of time, let me move on to the Ministry of Planning. Although there have been a number of recent attempts to upgrade the country's National Development Plan, the 1997 plan is still the current plan for guiding physical development in Grand Cayman. Given that the 1997 plan only included appendices which are offered guidelines for the development control of our sister islands, there still is no plan in place for either Cayman Brac or Little Cayman. The new development plan, being spearheaded by the Ministry of Planning, seeks to finally include guidance for all three islands, and the Development Control Board is partnering with the Central Planning Authority in the preparation for this plan. The CPA recently engaged the public on a series of consultations for the drafting of a planning statement for the National Development Plan, which is a monumental accomplishment, in my humble opinion, to get people to agree. Moving on to the East-West Arterial Highway, the extensive road works taking place at various locations is a part of the government's comprehensive plan to enhance connectivity across the island, to reduce traffic congestion and improve road safety. It was recently announced that Route B3 has been selected for the construction of the East-West Arterial. Consultants are currently working on the environmental management plan, which will work concurrently with the environmental impact assessment statement. Plans are also being made for public consultation to take place later this year, allowing the public to have input. The ministry expects to start the road in the first quarter of next year. The final update from the Ministry of Planning concerns the Georgetown Revitalization Project, which is intended to transform the capital city into a vibrant, accessible, and business-friendly hub. The government is aware that this has caused a lot of traffic for many of you and a lot of frustration and inconvenience to many of the residents who use the area and road users. But despite the unforeseen challenges experienced by the utility companies as they upgraded their respective infrastructure systems on the ground, along with other events scheduled for downtown Georgetown, I'm pleased to report that the major road works are completed. The projected timeline for completion is the end of this year, while the underground work continue without interruptions to the road users. Turning now to the Ministry of Border Control, Labor, Culture, and Immigration. Immigration reform is another hot topic issue, and I can confirm that the government has been working on significant changes to our immigration regime. The minister responsible for labor, the Honorable Doreen Seymour, intends to seek Cabinet's approval to amend legislation as it relates to our current immigration framework pertaining to areas such as work permits, the right to be Caymanian, better known as status, the residency and employment rights certificate on the grounds of marriage, and the term limits for non-Caymanian civil servants. I don't want to steal the minister's thunder, but suffices to say that the intention is for this bill to be tabled in Parliament as soon as possible. From a labor perspective, understanding that the business community are experiencing significant delays with processing of work permits, a number of improvements and efficiencies have been implemented at WORC to speed up the administrative process. Work permit renewals that were taking 9 months to process are now taking just 2 months. Initial applications that were taking six months to process are now taking 3 months. And temporary work permits are being processed through the system in less than 1 week. WORC has also developed a new job and online payment service portal, which is a significant step forward in terms of creating a more user-friendly and streamlined experience for both job seekers and employers. New features such as job favoriting and job cards, as well as the ability to apply for multiple jobs simultaneously, cater directly to the needs of job seekers, making the job application process even faster and even more efficient. Employers also have the benefit of having an improved centralized platform where they can effectively manage all job posts, views, and applications. Additionally, the online payment functionality has been enhanced to ensure that if there is an issue arising with a single transaction, only that transaction will be affected, preventing the entire batch from being returned. And as business owners who have a lot of workers, I know that must be a headache for your HR department, but we're resolving it. The Ministry of Labor will continue to improve efficiencies at WRC to ensure that the business community has access to labor needs where Caymanians are not available, while at the same time balancing the necessity for Caymanians to have access to all job opportunities that are available. At the halfway mark of this year, the total unemployment rate was 2.8, of which 1,142 of them are Caymanian available to join the workforce, that were able to join the workforce. Turning now my attention to the Poinciana Mental Health Facility. The Ministry of Wellness continues to work with the PWD project team to deliver this priority project. The three main buildings, admin, workshop, and conference room, and the cafe, were granted special permission to occupy in July of this year, which enabled the director and the staff to accompany and the commencement of the required temporary activities necessary to operationalize the facility. The cottages are currently being finalized, where mechanical design alterations required to be code compliant are currently being addressed. The plan is to have the first cluster of cottages approved, which will provide up to 18 beds, allowing for overseas Caymanian persons to be returned home as soon as possible. As you may have heard from the Honorable Premier last week, we believe that we can have an opening ceremony of the mental health facility before the end of this year. Again, the public can look forward to hearing more from the Minister and the Ministry about future developments. Moving swiftly on to the 7 Mile Beach erosion issue. I can advise that the government is in the process of finalizing options with the DOE for the fastest way forward to renourish the affected areas on the southern side of 7 Mile. Our government is categorizing this issue as a national, environmental, and economic emergency. We have already agreed to increase the National Conservation Fund fees and the tourism accommodation tax to raise the monies to cover the costs of future renourishment initiatives because it's accepted with the global weather changes, beach erosion will continue to be an issue of the future. We also intend to have talks with the affected property owners and the tourism stakeholders about a shared PPP model to pay for the first initial renourishment strategy. And we agree with the Chamber, this issue needs to be addressed now. The public can look forward to hearing more from the relevant ministries on future developments. Turning now to beneficial ownership, and the government is aware that transparency around beneficial ownership registers continues to be a topical issue and one that the financial services industry is focused on. It is a key point of discussion that the Ministry of Financial Services has had with the United States government officials, European Commission officials, and with the FATF members. The Premier, accompanied by the Attorney General and the very competent Chief Officer for Financial Services, along with other overseas territory leaders, will engage the UK on this topic at the next joint ministerial meeting that will be happening later this next week. The Ministry of Financial Services is processing work to allow limited public access to Cayman's register to beneficial ownership information. This LIA, or legitimate interest access, is consistent with the November 2022 judgment by the European Court of Justice. Constitutional Council has worked closely with the ministry so that we are balancing legitimate interest access with the privacy rights of our clients and the constitutional obligation to protect those rights. On the matter related to commerce, a key focus on government since taking our office has been provided with the provision of ongoing support to local micro and small business owners for faster growth in the sector, and that was done by the former Deputy Premier. In keeping with this, with the changes made earlier in this administration, the music and dancing legislation, which enabled owners and standalone bars and seagoing vessels to operate on similar footing as on Sundays as hotels and other restaurants, thereby equalizing their economic opportunities, which had been a request by the sector for some time. So we must give credit to the former Deputy Premier for resolving that matter. Steps were also taken via changes to the Local Companies Control Act to increase licensing fees for non-Caymanian controlled companies in the local market. And as indicated by the former Deputy Premier, presented those changes in Parliament recently through ongoing commerce reform project that will be undertaken by the Ministry of Financial Services and Commerce. Plans are underway to consult with the various stakeholders within the business community on a roster of legal reforms and process and policy solutions. These are intended to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and enhance resiliency, including the introduction of a multi-year licensing regime and making fee reduction strategies and waivers under the Small Business Incentive Program permanent, and resolving some of the current barriers to accessing intellectual property registration services by individuals and micro and small business owners by removing the requirement to register via an agent and reducing the registration fees. Now, I've said a whole lot today, and I need to drink some more water. So it's time to wrap up. Friends, there are many more government projects and programs currently in motion that I wish that I could have had enough time to update you on. But with limited time, I couldn't get to do them all. Notwithstanding, I hope that I have addressed your main areas of interest and also trust that I have effectively conveyed that the government remains committed to working closely with you, particularly those in the business community. Not only to rebalance these issues that plague us, but to tip the scales more favorably towards helping you flourish and improve the lives of those who call these wonderful islands home. We welcome your input, your expertise, your commitment to creating a future where the growth benefits every resident without sacrificing the quality of life that we value so deeply. This country's success has always depended upon the determination, resilience, and the commitment to doing the right thing for our people. As a government, I can assure you that we remain firm in our dedication to that principle. So in closing, I'll sum up with one of my favorite quotes by Barack Obama, who said, "Our destiny is not written for us, it's written by us." The journey ahead will require hard work, compromise, and most of all, shared vision of what needs to be accomplished together. But with your continued partnership, I'm confident that this administration and future administrations will and can overcome the challenges ahead by managing our growth and to build a future that benefits us all. As long as you don't quit before you finish the job. Thank you. God bless you all. May God bless the 3 Cayman Islands.
You covered a lot, Deputy Premier. I have a few questions, and some of them you might have answered, but if you would indulge me a little bit. Government priorities amidst minority leadership. You talked about the East-West Arterial and progress in Q1. I would rephrase what you said about beach erosion, 7 Mile beach renourishment as maybe a state of emergency.
Well, it depends on the legal definition, which we're having some challenges with. We see it as a national emergency, but constitutionally, under the procurement provisions, we're trying to assess what is determined as a national issue. I think most of us in here would consider it a national issue, right?
Yes.
So with that in mind, what the biggest thing I think the administration is concerned about is time. Because we recognize that the longer you delay, the worse it gets. So we're trying to speed that up. You know, it's going to take multi-million-dollar approach, which obviously we have things in place to ensure that that is done in the right procured way. And that sometimes takes a long time. And that's what I'm concerned about mostly. But we have some angles. We've had some discussions with the AG's office. We intend to talk to the stakeholders next week. I've said a few words, a couple of them tonight. The Ministry of Sustainability will be reaching out to those and sit down, and hopefully within the next 2 weeks we'll have a pretty clear path as to, and a timeline, because that's what people want to know. How quickly, how long is it going to take to get back to the 7 Mile Beach we know? So
coming back to a vision that both you and I referenced in our speeches, with the current sitting government, what would you say are those key priorities before the election?
Well, the 7 Mile Beach is definitely one of them. I would like to think that the referendum is one of them as well, because cruise tourism is seriously at a turning point, but we have to depend on those in the opposite side to see whether they still support it. The East-West Arterial also. But you know that the current government is a minority government, and we thank those on the opposite side, including the 4 that left, as well as the official opposition, for being mindful to allow the government to continue to operate in the best interests of the voters being able to get registered to be a part of the next election. So we're at the mercy of them. They've said that they're willing to support the continuity of the government until the next election, and the things that they would only support to go to Parliament are non-controversial. So it depends on what their interpretation of non-controversial are. I think most people know some of the things that we would want to address that we've said publicly already.
And taking that one step further, do you have any specific legislation that you could share that you'll be bringing to Parliament as a government before it dissolves ahead of elections?
Well, I mean, by all means, I'm not going to try to pretend. I think most people know that the government had intentions of trying to bring some minor amendments, contrary to the things that are being said out there about these, you know, carte blanche gutting of the National Conservation Act. I think that is totally unfalse, and sadly, the people who are contributing to that know better. But the truth will reveal itself if, in fact, those who are on the opposite side allow it to get to the public. I believe in transparency. Let it get on the floor of the House. Let the people see it. You know, my leader is currently having those discussions with those on the opposite side so the public can see. Because when we talk about rebalancing, there is always going to be subjectivity of how far is too far, how far is too much, you know, how much is too little. And I think that we all acknowledge that something is not right. And what the government thinks is right doesn't necessarily have to be what the end outcome is. That's the thing about the parliamentary process. There could be amendments on the floor of the House. The opposite side can say, okay, I'm okay with changing this, but I'm not okay with changing that. And we can make amendments. But this narrative that there shouldn't be some addressing of that is quite disturbing, because the truth is most business people in the room, those who have experienced the struggle of dealing with some of these things, know what we're talking about. by all means, listen, I think that the bill is necessary. I applaud the former Premier, Wayne Panton, for actually being the spearhead of bringing it. But we all know it's been a bit extreme in the democratic process. Sometimes leaders do stupid stuff, but that's why you have an election every 4 years. You don't say you're not going to give the elected arm, who are the people's voice, the power to do something because you feel that, you know, they're not good enough. That isn't how it works. If you don't like the government, you vote them out in the next term. And that's how democracy works, because you always have to remember, sometimes we don't like them, but those are the people who the people selected at that time, and you get another chance to change that. So I think that if we get the opportunity to get it to Parliament, maybe we might be able to address some of the things that are outstanding, that, you know, are subtle, that can be changed. I don't believe in outright gutting it either.
Sure. And lastly, in the interest of time, they say we live and we learn. Over the past few years, as both you and I pointed out, Caymanians have witnessed several changes, and not only Caymanians, our resident population has witnessed several changes in the composition of the government, leading to what some describe as unpredictable and challenging period in our political history. What lessons have been learned from these experiences, and how would these insights shape your future?
Well, I think there's a general attitude that's floating around now that the independence didn't work. And I don't think it was the independence didn't work. I think it's the commonality of persons coming together, because the truth is even the parties are only a group of independents who've agreed to work together that has more strength and commitment to each other, because we don't have parties that have an ideological foundation. They're not labor-driven. They're not Republican or conservative. They're just a group of people who are coming together. So what transpired with the independents is that they organized together after the election. There's no difference with a group of people agreeing together beforehand. I think that would be more beneficial, because you build camaraderie, you build togetherness, and you agree to the principles of what you want to sell the country beforehand. So you have reason to stand together when you get on the other side, when you're actually in power, because there's less arguments as opposed to coming together afterwards. This is what I voted on, and this is what I stand for. So togetherness is important, and I think that even if you get a group of independents coming together to say, we're going to give you commitment, we're going to give you stability, it's not going to be any difference than the parties. But I accept, even as an individual who ran last time, that you have to be a part of something structured. I mean, even me, myself, and my committee spoke about it, and I need to make some decisions as well, because I do not want to offer this country what we've gone through in the last 3.5 years. You don't deserve it. We have so much to be grateful for, and the people know what they want. We just got to deliver it with confidence, and we can make Cayman amazing as we always do, and I think we're going to do that. I think the people know what they need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.